Hello. Okay, what are the practical steps in specifying quality requirements? That's what we're going to discuss very shortly in this particular module. Okay, so I can give at least 5 steps in exploring, let's say, or specifying quality requirements. First of all, we need to start with a broad taxonomy. It would really help us to understand what quality attributes are relevant and what quality attributes are particularly important for your own system. Okay, so you can just start with the one that we have seen in previous videos, like the one from Uyghurs, or you can also check the Volaria or McCall's or ISO standard and so on. That's the first step. The second step is to reduce the list. Okay, so what you need to do is you need to go through some elicitation, let's say, activities to engage multiple stakeholders, assess which of the attributes are likely to be important for them or for a particular system, IT system that they will be using. So that's elicitation, in fact. And then the third step is to prioritize these attributes. Okay, so and possibly further reduce the list so that you can really focus on those that are particularly important for those stakeholders. Fourth step is eliciting specific expectations for each of the attributes that are deemed important by the users or by different stakeholders. Okay, and the fifth one is the specification. Specify well-structured quality requirements, those that are really measurable, and that's very, very important. Measurable ones. Okay, so there's a Excel sheet. Link is here. That would help you in doing so. Now, what I would like to do is to show you, for instance, I mean, I can imagine that you can easily go through step 1 and 2. I'll focus in this very quickly in this slide. I'll focus on the third one, prioritization. So one of the approaches to let's say prioritization is to use some analytical techniques, and in this case what we're going to do, we'll go over an example very quickly to show you how you can do this thing by applying a kind of pairwise comparison to understand the importance of quality attributes. Now, this is an example for an airport check-in kiosks, and so what happens here is that you'd see the like the attributes that you already considered to be important for this kiosk, airport kiosk. And what you do, you just do a pairwise comparison, so you can just put them in a kind of a metric structure. And what this says is that if the left side attribute is more important, you identify with this character, otherwise you use this character. It's like here, and based on the results for this particular one, I mean, it happens that the security is the most important and the integrity is the second, and so on and so forth. So, you know, as we have limited, let's say, resources to focus on things, we would better prioritize and spend more time on those that are really important. That's the essence of prioritization, obviously. Then the next step is eliciting specific expectations for each of these attributes. Okay, so security, integrity, the first two ones. But what is very, very important here is that users would not know very well how to answer the questions that would perhaps pop up first in your mind. Okay, so you can't basically go and ask any user or any stakeholder something like, what are your interoperability requirements? You can't. That would be quite stupid, in fact, or how reliable your system should be. That is not how we elicit requirements, how we analyze quality attributes or requirements for quality attributes. So there are plenty of questions that you can ask, and by going through some examples, in fact, you will also see how you can define or what kind of questions you should ask to elicit that measurable requirement statements or expectations from people. Now, for instance, what would be a reasonable or acceptable response time for retrieval of a typical patient information in response to a query. That would be a much more meaningful question than basically asking what should be the performance of your system. That is quite a vague question and hardly to be answered by anyone, in fact. But if you just come up with something that is much more concrete and accurate, and the users or any other stakeholder would be much, let's say, comfortable to respond to you with something that's meaningful. Or what would users consider an unacceptable response time for a typical query? Okay, so again, in fact, that's something related to the performance. I'm not going into details of the other ones. In fact, I'll let you read those questions, and kind of a quick quiz would be to identify which type of quality attributes each one of these questions address. Okay, so we can discuss this thing later on in Q&A session. The fifth in this practical set of activities or steps to be done is to specify well-structured quality requirements. Okay, so it might be okay to state such requirements in a kind of a vague form for business. Okay, at the highest level, like at the business level, or if we are specifying things for top management executive, it might be okay to say that it will be very user-friendly and so on and so forth. But when it comes to the user level, or particularly at the solution level, you can't just go with something that's vague, because vague is unmeasurable, and if you can't measure it, then you can't know whether you have properly addressed that thing. So what I'm trying to say is that these requirements should eventually be specified for users or designers, developers in a measurable form to establish a precise agreement on expectations. Okay, so basically, if it is not measurable, there's no point in specifying. Okay, so if it is not measurable, it's not verifiable, you're doomed. Okay, so we'll see more examples of such requirements in later slides. But for now, that is it. See you in the next video.